Okay, welcome back. Now we are now in World War II, and the puppet president was Jose P. Laurel. Si Laurel ay taga Tanawan, Batangas. Okay, the Japanese invasion of 1941 at the onset of the World War II delayed this granting of independence, forced the Commonwealth government to go into exile, and subjected the country to be to a puppet government. The Kalibapi became the sole legal political party, and Jose P. Laurel was declared president of the Second Republic. Okay, so ang nangyari kay Quezon, Osmeña ay nag-exile to US, and that time si Quezon ay nagkasakit. That time, ang sakit niya ay TB, tuberculosis, at wala pang gamot. That time, nung siya ay namatay by 1944, doon pa lang nakita yung vaccine nito, at parang COVID-19 lang ang nangyari. So this nationalist government, no, espoused anti-American sentiments. However, the American reconquered the country in 1944. 3 years lang tinagal, 1941 then 44. And Osmeña, who has succeeded Quezon upon the latter's death, restored the Commonwealth government. So si Osmeña na ang nagpatuloy ng sa presidency. The first meeting of a bicameral Commonwealth occurred. So, the nationalista, ito pa rin ang party, were split, no? Nahati ito in 1946 during the presidential election with Manuel Rojas, no? Setting what would later be the Liberal Party. Si Rojas ay Liberal Party. Then, Rojas defeated Osmeña and became the last president of Commonwealth. The American agreed to grant independence on July 4, 1946. Okay, so we are celebrating the June 12 independence and July 4, 1946. So after that ay si Emilio Elpidio Quirino rather ang sumunod. Why? Nung nanalo si Rojas at siya ay nagkaroon ng tinatawag na heart attack, no? 1948, allowing Vice President Elpidio Quirino to rule the country for the next 6 years. Okay? So si Quirino ang Vice President and ng liberal, yung Quirino's liberal government was widely seen as corrupt, di maganda, and was easily beaten by his former Defense Secretary Ramon Magsaysay in 1953 election. So nagkaroon ng split, tumakbo si Ramon Magsaysay dahil si Quirino ay corrupt, then yun, si Magsaysay ay nalo ng 1953 election. Okay, si Ramon Magsaysay, who oversaw the surrender of the long-running Hukbalahap rebellion, not complete his term, dying in a plane crash in Cebu City. Ang kanyang legacy ay maraming ito yung mga parang NPA ngayon, no? Hukbo laban sa Hapon, namundok sila at hindi na sila nakiisa sa Pilipino. Ang nangyari ay nagkaroon sila ng grupo, no, na armado. Ang Hukbalahap actually it's hukbong bayan laban sa Hapon. Wala na, tapos na. So ito'y nag-surrender kay Magsaysay. Kaya lang namatay siya sa plane crash. Okay, ang pumalit sa kanya ay ang kanyang Vice President na si Carlos P. Garcia. Won the 1957 election and implemented the Filipino First policy and austerity program. So pagtitipid and Pilipino muna. Garcia was defeated by Vice President Diosdado Macapagal of the Liberal Party. Kung titingnan natin, nawala yung Pangulo, papalit ng Vice President, tapos ah, matatalo naman sila. Meron kasing re-election eh. 4-year term, then after that, merong re-election parang sa Amerika, pero natatalo. Karamihan ay dahil sa kanilang may mga hindi magandang track records. Tapos nga, itong Vice President na si um, President Diosdado Macapagal ang nanalo, 1961. Okay. Si Macapagal ay father ni Gloria Macapagal na taga Lubao, Pampanga. Macapagal initiated a return to a system of free enterprise not seen since the Quirino administration. However, Macapagal's policy faced a stiff opposition in Congress. The Nacionalista hold the majority. So Macapagal was defeated in 1965 by Senator Ferdinand Marcos. So siya ay nationalista. Ang naglalaban lang nung that time, nationalista at saka liberal. Two-party system. Okay, let's go to Ferdinand Marcos, the nationalist. Ang kanyang legacy naman, yung infrastructure projects, no? And he was the first president to be re-elected in 1969. Although the election was tainted by the violence and allegations that Marcos used the treasury to fund his campaign. However, significant protests such as yung dumating sa kanya, first quarter storm, the communists and Moro insurgents and civil unrest heightened. Ibig sabihin, talagang magulo that times. That's why in 1972, he declared martial law and suspend the 1935 Constitution. So a new constitution calling for semi-presidential government approved in 1973. But Marcos still ruled by decree until 1978 when the interim Batasang Pambansa was elected. However, opposition groups whose leaders mostly had already left in exile boycotted the 1981 presidential election which Marcos easily won. Madali siyang nanalo. Yung martial law ay nag-start in 1972 and it was ended noong 1980 or 81. Opposition leader Benigno Aquino Jr. was slain upon his return to the country in 1983. By this, the government was marred by alleged rampant corruption and allegation of human rights violation. Grabe yung time talaga ni Marcos. Namatay dito yung asawa ng Pangulong Cory Aquino na si Benigno Aquino dun sa Tarmac ng 1983. So the opposition participated in 84 parliamentary election and won several seats. Kaya lang, not enough to topple Marcos, KBL. Mas matindi itong pa rin. So makita natin yung grabing opposition, no? When it comes to politics. To counter growing opposition, Marcos called a snap election in 1986. So the opposition nominated Benigno's widow, Corazon, as their candidate. So ito ang pinaka-grabing nangyari pa. Marcos was declared the winner on that snap election. But the opposition refused to accept the result, alleging that their election was rigged. O talagang moro-moro or pinagplanuhan. The People Power Revolution drove Marcos from power and Aquino became president. Aquino by decree in 1987 when a new constitution restoring the presidential system was approved. Nung naging pangulo si Cory Aquino, nagkaroon ng bagong constitution. Ito nga yung ating constitution ngayon, yung 1987. Yan, restoring the presidential system. In the ensuing legislative election, the administration parties won most of the seats in Congress. Okay, time of Cory Aquino. Aquino's government was marred by coup attempts. Grabe, high inflations and unemployment. Talagang nagkaroon ng kahirapan. Natural calamities, but introduced land reform and market liberalization. So Aquino's administration also saw the pull-out of U.S. bases in Subic Bay and Clark. As the 1992 election grew closer, Aquino declined to run even though she could do so. Instead, supported Ramon Mitra. She later backtracked and later through her support Fidel B. Ramos, who later won a bit under controversial circumstances. Ang kalaban niya ay si yung babae na dinaya ni Ramos. Okay? So nasa isip ko lang. Si Fidel Ramos ay maraming mga crisis. One of them is energy crisis, which had started during Aquino's administration, which was resolved when Ramos issued contracts favorable to power producers. Kasi puro brownout that time. Makikita natin talagang puro ano yan, mga motor sa bahay para magkaroon lang ng ilaw, ganyan. The Ramos administration hosted the 1996 APEC summit, reinstated the death penalty, signed a peace agreement with Moro National Liberation Front, and bore the brunt of the 1997 Asian financial crisis. But hindi yung financial crisis noong 1997. So he wanted to amend the constitution, but Aquino and other sectors opposed the measure and backed off. Ramos Vice President Joseph Estrada defeated the former party mate Jose de Venecia and several others in 1998 election in a comfortable margin. So malaki ang lamang ni ERAP. Meanwhile, the Venecia running mate Gloria Arroyo was elected Vice President. Kaya lang, yung time ni ERAP, no, maganda rin ang ginawa. May mga land reform, death penalty, restoration death penalty, refuse of signed contracts with sovereign guarantee, public projects. Estrada also wanted to amend the Constitution but was again rebuffed by Aquino, the Catholic Church particularly, and the left. So the administration launched an all-out war against the Moro Islamic Liberation Front that saw government retaking Camp Abu Bakar, the main rebel encampment. So talagang yun ang masasabi nating legacy ni Joseph Estrada. However, the administration was embroiled in charges of yung tinatawag na cronyism, yung mga kaibigan and corruption. Sobra ang corruption that time. Yung Wettengate scandal led to his impeachment by the House of Representatives. So, si Estrada ay nakulong. In the prevented evidence to be presented, this triggered massive protesters. Days later, in what would be called the 2000 EDSA Revolution, the armed forces of the Philippines withdrew their support to Estrada and transferred their allegiance to Vice President Arroyo. That was 2001. The Supreme Court ruled the presidency as vacant and Estrada left Malacanang Palace. Now, pabalik si Gloria Arroyo noong January 20, 2001. 4 months later, Estrada supporter laid siege to the presidential palace but were later expelled. Arroyo's People Power Coalition won majority of the seats in 2001 election and therefore consolidated power. In 2003, Arroyo put down a coup attempts in Central Business District. Arroyo faced Fernando Po Jr., a friend of Joseph Estrada, ailing with 3 others in 2004 and won in slim plurality. So marami rin siyang naranasan. So months after Poe died on December, it was exposed by a wiretap conversation that Arroyo rigged the election. No? Inayos, nagkaroon ng dayaan. On a national address sa television, Arroyo said that she was sorry on a lapse of judgment. The position did not let up, and she said had to put down 2 more coup attempts. The opposition united in 2007 Senate election and won easily, but Arroyo's allies still held the House of Representatives. At the end of her presidency, Arroyo became the most unpopular president on record, with increases on taxes, attempts to amend the Constitution, and the alleged illegitimacy of her administration as the reasons. So, pinalitan siya ni Benigno Aquino. On the 2010 election, Arroyo's party nominated Gilberto Teodoro for president. However, some supporters suggested that Arroyo was secretly supporting Manny Villar, who was the frontrunner. However, former President Aquino died that time, and her son Benigno Aquino III overtook Villar in the polls. Estrada overtook Villar in the polls, but still lost to Aquino. Aquino embarked on anti-corruption drive, so economy grew and maintained high popularity. However, with a natural calamity and scams on the use of pork barrel and other discretionary funds coming into the light, Aquino administration had to contend with rising opposition. Marami siyang naging kalaban. Yun nga, natalo siya ni Rodrigo Roa Duterte, became our 16th president of the Republic. Okay, thank you very much. God bless.